Hey, I'm Chris Ralph, the professional prospector, and I'm doing a series of videos on the secrets of successful nugget hunting with a metal detector. And I'm going over certain ideas that you need to keep in mind when you're out there prospecting. And stick around, we're going to talk about some really serious ones today. So today our specific lesson is in basically three related concepts. One is to swing slowly, and we're going to talk about that. Two is to keep your coil close to the ground. And then three is to be sure to check out obstructions, areas near bushes and tree trunks and that sort of thing. Don't just swing in the middle of a path. You'll miss gold. So let's get started. The first one, like I said, was to swing slowly. Now, I just recently did a whole video on listening for faint targets because that is so crucial. I mean, literally most gold, even larger nuggets, because they're maybe down a little deeper, end up being a fairly faint signal. Now, yes, once in a great while, you're going to get a big old nugget right up close to the surface, and it's going to just scream on your metal detector. I have had stuff like that happen. Even, stuff that's not gigantic, if it's big flat flakes kind of thing. I've had a 3 pennyweight nugget that was kind of a flat cornflake size thing, and apparently it was face up to the ground surface. I went over it with my metal detector and it just screamed. I was sure it was a big old bullet. But that stuff just doesn't happen that often. So you need to listen to those faint signals. And related to that idea of listening for faint signals is moving your coil slowly. Just not moving it too fast, because if you're there, just kind of whipping. There used to be actually a method for metal detectors of discriminating that involved what they called whipping your coil around. And a lot of guys will get to an area and think, oh, I want to cover a large area. I've got to cover a big area. And that's, the thing is, if you go fast over a faint target, if you have some faint target and you go whoop, like that really fast, the signal you're going to get is not going to be very weak. It's basically what you're doing by going fast is making a weak signal even weaker, making a hard signal that's hard to hear even harder to hear. So if you go slowly, well, you'll get the maximum signal from a faint target. Whereas if you go fast, you're likely to go fast and then just miss the target. So that's a critical thing, is to go slowly. Now, there's a couple of things that I do want to say, is that when you're in a new area and you're just kind of scanning the area to see what you got, then of course you're going to swing maybe a little faster than you might otherwise. But if you're working an area where there's been nuggets found, I mean you're in a patch or something where there's been nuggets taken out, well, you really want to slow down so you can hear those faint targets, because a lot of times the faint targets are nice gold, and even if they're small gold, it's still good gold. So very important thing to remember, to swing slowly. Don't overdo it. Then our next point is to keep your coil close to the ground, and to keep it as flat to the ground surface as you can. You don't want to swing with, see how my one end of the coil is close to the ground, and the other is not. You don't want to swing like that. That's no good, because you're missing the idea of being close to the ground is that faint targets, you can only hear them at a certain depth. And if you raise your coil off a foot off the ground, well, you're going to miss all those faint targets. Most people would understand the idea of keeping your coil a foot off the ground is crazy. Well, you're still losing it if you're 3 inches off the ground. You're still losing 3 inches. The idea, honestly, is to keep the coil real close, as close as you can to the ground. I mean, that's why they have on the bottom of your metal detector, there's a skid plate. And you can see that my skid plate is all scratched up, and this knuckle that attaches to the coil to the detector is scratched up too. But the skid plate is there because it's supposed to take wear. And basically all metal detectors, unless you're going to use them on grass all the time for coin and that kind of detecting, you need a skid plate. And the truth is, if you're not wearing out these skid plates after, you know, enough usage, then you're not keeping your coil close enough to the ground. I've actually, this is I think the third one on this detector that I've gone through. And believe me, I'm careful with these things. I don't want to wear them out unnecessarily, but still, you got to keep them close to the ground, and that means you're going to scratch the ground sometimes. I've actually seen guys that scrub the ground surface. I mean, they literally are knocking pebbles and small rocks out of the way because they're pushing so hard on the coil. I don't think that's really necessary. You're not gaining that much. I mean, if you have a target that you hear, you can do what they call a boot scrape and just clear off the area a little bit and then detect that area. But the idea is you need to keep your coil close to the ground to be able to hear those weaker targets. And the closer you are to the ground, just like the slower the swing of your coil, the more you're going to maximize those faint targets. And like I say, so many of those faint targets are gold. So there are so many, actually, really, because there's so much trash in a lot of places, even in those places, the gold targets that you're going to get, most of them are going to be faint. So those are the 2 points. So first point is to swing your coil slowly. Second point being to keep your coil close to the ground, and make sure you're using that skid plate, that you're gonna, over time you're gonna wear that skid plate out, because if you keep it up here, swing it 4 or 5 inches off the deck, you're not gonna wear out the skid plate. Oh, another one that goes with that I do want to cover is keeping it close to the ground throughout your swing. There are guys who tend to do this kind of thing, looping it up, and I'm exaggerating to an extreme, obviously lifting the coil up 5-6 inches off the ground at the end of your swing is crazy. So you want to keep your coil level to the ground throughout the whole length of your swing. Wherever you're going, keep it level and close to the ground. That's our point 2. So now we're going to take a look at point 3. And point 3 is basically to check out obstructions. And so obstructions can be a lot of things. It can be a tree trunk or a downed tree. It can be a rock or a boulder. It can be a bush or even a road. A lot of times, a lot of detectorists tend to go right down the middle of the path, the open area, and they don't check out things off to the side, trees or rocks or bushes. They don't check those out carefully. And I got to tell you that I've found some really nice targets, some really nice nuggets in areas around obstructions. That's, around rocks and boulders, underneath bushes, next to trees, next to the tree trunk, and in roads. In fact, a few years ago, I got a nugget over 1 ounce in a road that people had driven on. There was dozens of people drive on that road every day. I'd driven on that road a bunch of times going out to go prospecting. So always check out those obstructions. Those obstructions are important things for you to look at, and make sure that you don't miss them, because it's something that a lot of other prospectors do miss. Now, the 3 lessons today are about basically what we would call coil control. That you keep your coil where you want it to be. That it's in the optimum location or optimum position, and that you're checking out the things that you need to check out in order to find nuggets. So remember the 3 points today, the 3 points of coil control, which are to swing slowly, You know, don't go too fast, because if you go too fast, you're going to be minimizing those faint signals. You want to maximize the faint signal. So a slow coil movement is going to do that. Another thing is that, you know, you got to keep your coil close to the ground and level with it. You know, you gotta keep the coil right at ground level. You should be wearing out those skid plates from time to time. And that's another part of coil control. And then the third part that we went over last is to check out obstructions, because a lot of prospectors just seem to miss rocks. They go around them and don't check them out carefully. You know, with small rocks, you can go over the top of them. With bigger boulders, you may have to just go around it. And sometimes, you know, the old timers sometimes used to throw rocks on top of diggings. I mean, they'd have good gold here. They wouldn't worry about throwing rocks on top of a little more gold over there. And I've had good luck at times actually taking rocks and tossing them off. Now, if there's a 5-foot thick pile of rocks, you're not going to want to get in there and try and toss all those rocks. But if there's just a layer 1 or 2 rocks thick, you know, sometimes you can do pretty well just by tossing rocks. So remember the 3 lessons of coil control, like I say, to swing slow, keep your coil close to the ground and level, and check out obstructions. Now, if you want to learn more about prospecting as a whole and get more lessons in how to be successful from geology and all types of stuff like that, where to go, how to do research, I've written a book about it. I spent almost 10 years writing a book, and the book is over 350 pages. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about my book right now.
Okay, so I wanted to tell you a little bit more about my book. I wanted to be able to share the knowledge that I've gained about finding gold and how to be successful. And so I spent years literally writing this book, Fistful of Gold. It's more than 350 pages long, which is why I say it's an encyclopedia of everything you need to know about finding your own gold. I've sold more than 8,000 copies, and I've got a lot of really great feedback on it. It just is the most complete book on the market. It has information about finding gold that literally is not available in any other book that you're going to find for prospectors, because I took technical stuff from geologists and other mineral scientists, and I've translated that into language that the average guy can understand. You don't need a PhD to go out and find gold, but the information that scientists have learned over recent decades can be of a lot of help to people. So it's in this book. If you're interested about finding gold, panning, sluicing, nugget detecting, dry washing, the geology of gold deposits and how they form, it's all in here. And like I say, it's more than 350 pages long. So if you'll just go to the description underneath this video, you can take a look. I've got a link in there to take you to Amazon, to the site where the book is sold. And I think you'll really enjoy it. Take a look at all the people who've commented on this and have really liked the book. It has a very, very high rating for a book. And also, I have a website, my own free website that you can take a look at. I've got all kinds of information on here about doing research and how to find gold, a lot of good information, stuff that basically couldn't fit into my book. And so I put it on this website, and I have a link also for that in the video description. So take a look in the description, and you can click on the link, and it'll take you to my website. And finally, if you like this presentation, I've got a lot more coming out. Here's 3.5 ounces of gold that I found a couple years back in one area. I've got a lot more of these videos coming on gold, gemstones, hard rock, placer, a lot of metal detecting. There'll be lots of metal detecting stuff. So if you really enjoyed this, click the subscribe button and then tick the notification bell off, and YouTube will let you know when I publish new stuff. And hit the like button as well. And please comment on these videos, because I'm interested in what you have to say, and I promise to answer any questions you have. So if you are wondering about anything, or think maybe I didn't cover something thoroughly enough in a video, then let me know, and I'll be happy to try and help you out and give you whatever information you need. So thanks a lot, and hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you again real soon.